The hand appeared on Claire Morgan's sonar screen at 2:17 in the morning. Not debris, not a shadow, a human hand. It pressed against glass 80 feet beneath Redwater Reservoir as lightning split the Arizona sky above the dam. Claire stood frozen inside the lower inspection gallery. Rain hammered the concrete overhead. Warning lights flashed red across the wet walls. Her remote camera hovered in black water beside a rectangular structure that appeared on no official blueprint. Then the hand moved. 3 slow taps. Claire grabbed her radio. "Control, this is Morgan. I have an unauthorized submerged structure beneath the western basin." Static answered. The camera drifted closer, reinforced concrete. Black steel, narrow windows lined one wall. Behind the nearest pane stood a person in a faded gray uniform. Another face appeared, then another. They were alive. Claire zoomed in on a steel door buried beneath algae. Prisoner Transfer Authority. Her breath stopped. Someone had built a prison beneath the reservoir and hidden it inside falsified dam plans. She reached for her satellite phone. Every light went out. 2 seconds later, the canyon exploded. The blast threw Claire against the railing. Dust fell from the ceiling. Far above her, metal screamed. She ran for the emergency stairs. By the time she reached the control deck, Redwater's only suspension bridge was falling into the canyon. One tower folded. Steel cables snapped through the storm. An empty maintenance truck slid from the roadway and vanished into the flood-swollen river. Claire stared through the glass wall. As fire reflected across the rain, the town was trapped. Nearly 4,000 residents now had no way out, while the reservoir climbed toward emergency capacity. Black SUVs crossed the service yard below. Men in dark coats stepped out, carrying rifles. The final vehicle opened. Vincent DeLuca emerged in a black suit beneath a rain-darkened overcoat. He entered the control room without raising his voice. He did not need to. Every worker went silent. Vincent stopped before the windows overlooking the ruined bridge. "Seal every access road," he ordered. "No one leaves Redwater." Claire crossed the room. "You destroyed that bridge," he turned. His dark eyes moved over her soaked hair. The dust on her cheek, the engineering tablet against her chest. Claire Morgan. The fact that he knew her name disturbed her more than the weapons. "You trapped thousands of people during a flood warning." "I prevented the people responsible for what is beneath the reservoir from escaping." "You know about the structure." "I know. It has operated for at least 15 years. There are living prisoners inside." Something changed in Vincent's face. Pain appeared, then vanished. "How many?" "3 at one window. There may be more." "There are. You've seen them." "No." "Then how do you know?" He stepped closer. "Because one of them is my sister." Claire held his gaze. "Then help me contact federal authorities." "No federal authority enters this canyon until I know which agency helped build that prison." "You cannot hold a town hostage while you investigate." "I did not come here to investigate." Thunder rolled over the dam. Vincent placed a folded document on the console. Claire recognized the drafting style before she saw the signature. Dr. Samuel Morgan, her father. A hidden corridor had been drawn inside the western foundation, leading from the maintenance galleries to the submerged structure. Beside it was a note in her father's handwriting. "Emergency containment must remain invisible on all public plans." Claire's fingers went cold. "That is impossible. Your father designed the prison access. He only consulted on spillway reinforcement. He lied. Where did you get this?" "From a man who died trying to send it to you." "My father has been dead for 9 years. "I know." Vincent opened a second page. It listed every engineering firm Claire had worked for since graduation, every damaged structure she had exposed, every employer that had tried to bury her reports. Dates were written beside each one. "You've been tracking me. I've been keeping you alive. By destroying the bridge, by making sure the people who built that prison cannot remove you before you open it." "I am not opening anything for you." A siren began deep inside the dam. Emergency power restored part of the pressure board. Claire watched the Western Foundation readings flash across the screen. A structural crack was widening near the lower intake. If it reached the old service tunnel, the dam could lose part of its base. Vincent watched her face. How long? Until what? The dam fails, she studied the numbers. 6 hours if the storm holds. And the prison floods first. His jaw tightened. Then you will show me how to reach it. No. His men shifted, but Vincent only stepped closer. Rain glistened on his lashes. I did not destroy that bridge to frighten you, messieurs. Morgan. Then why? To keep the man who ordered your father's work inside Redwater. Who? Before he answered, Claire's tablet emitted a sharp tone. The underwater camera had reconnected. The figure behind the glass was tapping again. 3 taps, pause. 2 taps, pause. 4. Claire stopped breathing. It was a code her father had created when she was a child. 3 numbers that translated into a name only he had ever used. Little Sparrow. Claire looked at Vincent. He was already watching her. Who is inside that prison? She whispered. Vincent answered beneath the rain. That is what your father died to keep you from discovering. The first fracture widened before dawn. A white line split across the western pressure map, then turned red. Claire stood over the console as rain fed a reservoir already, pressing too hard against the dam. If the spillway shifts another 1/4 inch, she said, the Western Foundation will shear. Vincent spoke into a secure radio. Move every family south of Juniper Street to the courthouse and high school. Use the underground garages. No one stays below the mining road. Claire looked at him. You prepared evacuation sites. I prepared for panic. You knew the town might flood. I knew the people protecting the prison would destroy it before surrendering. And you still blew the bridge. That bridge was wired before I arrived. By you. Yes, he never softened the truth to make himself easier to trust. A guard entered. Salazar vehicles are moving through the Eastern Service Road. Vincent's expression hardened. How many? 6 trucks. Headlights appeared through the storm beyond the turbine yard. Who is Salazar? Claire asked. A family that once shared control of the power company. Once? They tried to kill me. Gunfire struck the outer windows. Vincent crossed the room and drove Claire behind the concrete console. His body covered hers as bullets tore through the monitors. He fired toward the broken glass without lifting his weight from her. Claire felt his hand behind her head, protecting. Stay down, he said. I need the spillway controls. You need to stay alive. If the gates fail, everyone below the canyon dies. His jaw tightened. Then he ordered, get her to the lower gallery. Claire pushed against his chest. I can walk, I know, then move. For 1 second, his face remained inches from hers. Rain blew across his cheek. Then he rose and pulled her behind him. His men formed a moving wall around them. Vincent fired toward the turbine yard as they reached the emergency stairs. An explosion shook the building. Claire descended by red floor lights, Vincent close behind. You said Salazar once controlled the company. His father helped mine the canyon. And build the prison. Possibly. So this is a war over what is inside. It became a war 15 years ago. The lower gallery flooded around their boots. Claire opened a pressure valve panel. The manual bypass had been severed. Sabotage, she said. Can you repair it? Not before the Foundation shifts. I need the old western tunnel. That passage was sealed. According to the public plans, she opened her father's drawing. There should be a maintenance shaft behind this wall. Vincent's men reached for explosives. Claire grabbed his wrist. No charges. The wall carries spillway load. His gaze dropped to her fingers. She released him. We drill, he ordered the men back. Claire marked a circle and started the core drill. Vincent held the light while water rose to her knees. You could have sent anyone to watch me, she said. I did. She looked up. For how long? Since your first report in Phoenix. That was 6 years ago. 7. Claire shut off the drill. You knew Mercer Engineering planned to blacklist me. Yes. They withdrew the complaint overnight. I purchased their debt. The Denver board restored my license. I replaced 3 members. My scholarship was anonymously extended. I paid it. Anger spread hotter than fear. You rearranged my life without speaking to me. I prevented your father's partners from erasing you. You do not get to call control protection. No, I call it necessary. Why me? Because you kept finding faults in structures Samuel Morgan designed. That made me useful. Yes. The answer came too quickly. Claire returned to the drill. Behind her, Vincent said, "Useful people are replaceable." She stopped. He offered nothing more. The drill broke through. Cold air rushed from the opening. Beyond the wall, a narrow tunnel descended into black water. Claire entered first. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "This is my dam. It belongs to my company. That explains why it is failing." Something almost like amusement touched his eyes. Then the ceiling cracked. Vincent caught Claire around the waist and drove her against the tunnel wall. Concrete crashed behind them. His back took the impact while his arms shielded her head. The work light fell into the water. Darkness swallowed them. Claire heard his breath break. "Vincent, I am fine. You were hit. Keep moving." She felt along his shoulder. His coat was torn. Blood warmed her fingertips. He caught her wrist, but did not remove her hand. They stood pressed together in the narrow, dark water, moving around their thighs. Claire felt every controlled breath in his chest. His hand lifted toward her face, stopped, then fell away. A metallic clang echoed ahead. Vincent turned. Someone is in the tunnel. Emergency light flickered beneath the water, revealing a steel door in the rock. Claire wiped algae from its surface. A crowned lion inside a broken circle appeared beneath her palm. Vincent went still. "What is it?" "My family seal." A scanner activated. DeLuca blood authorization required. Morgan engineering code required. Claire looked at him. Something struck the other side 3 times. A woman's voice came faintly through the steel. "Vincent." He stopped breathing. The voice whispered again. "Please tell me you finally came alone." Vincent did not move. The woman's voice came through the steel again. "Please tell me you finally came alone." Claire looked at him. "Is that Elena?" "Yes. You said you had never seen her inside. I had not heard her voice in 15 years. The scanner pulsed. DeLuca blood authorization required. Morgan engineering code required. Vincent cut his palm and pressed it to the first plate. Claire studied the second keypad. 6 symbols had been etched around it. Load, pressure, foundation, water, failure, containment. She recognized her father's lesson. Build from the ground. Release from the top. Claire entered the sequence. The door unlocked. Vincent reached for the handle. She caught his arm. If the chamber is pressurized, opening it too fast could drown everyone. His eyes dropped to her hand. "Tell me what to do." It was the first time he had asked instead of commanded. Claire opened the equalization valve. The steel door moved inward. Beyond it stretched a corridor beneath the reservoir. Reinforced glass cells lined both sides. Men and women stood behind them in gray uniforms. One had been declared dead in a plane crash 12 years earlier. Another had vanished during a federal corruption trial. Claire felt sick. "This is not a holding site." "No," Vincent said. "It is an archive with breathing evidence." A prisoner struck the glass. "DeLuca." An elderly man pressed both hands to the window. "Little King." Vincent stopped. "You know me?" "I knew your father." "Where is Elena?" "Medical wing." "Who runs this place?" Before the man could answer, every light went out. Red lamps flashed. Containment breach. Purge protocol initiated. Water exploded through ceiling vents. The prisoners screamed. Vincent raised his radio. "Store power, no response." Claire opened the nearest control box. "The prison pumps have been cut from the dam grid." "How long?" "Minutes." Vincent looked toward the stairwell leading to Elena, then toward the flooding cells. Claire saw the choice in his face. "Go," she said. "I can restart the pumps. You cannot do it alone. She is down there, and you are here." Vincent seized a steel bar and struck the emergency release on the nearest cell. "Open every door," he ordered. "Move the prisoners to the upper gallery." One lieutenant hesitated. "Boss, Elena, do it." Claire found a maintenance hatch beneath the panel. "The backup relays are below us. I am coming. You need to find your sister. I spent 15 years finding her." His gaze locked on Claire. "I will not lose you in the final 10 minutes." He descended beside her. The service channel was barely wide enough for both of them. Cold water climbed around their shoulders as Claire crawled toward the relay box. Gunfire echoed above. Salazar's men had entered the prison. Vincent shielded her as bullets tore through the hatch. "Work." She opened the relay panel. 3 cables had been cut. One restores the pumps. One opens the flood doors. One may collapse the corridor. Which is which? My father removed the labels. Can you identify them? Not before this fills. Vincent took her hand and placed it over his pulse. Steady. "Listen to me instead of the water." Claire stared at him. "You know structures," he said. "Find what he tried to hide." She traced the cables through the conduit. One line climbed toward the pump room. She connected it. The corridor lights returned. Pumps roared beneath them. Water began draining from the cells. A shot struck the metal beside Claire's head. Vincent fired through the hatch, then pulled her against him. His hand pressed behind her neck. For one suspended second, his mouth hovered near hers. Not a kiss, a promise neither of them trusted. Then he released her. They climbed into the corridor. DeLuca men fought Salazar soldiers between flashing lights and retreating water. Prisoners were being moved toward the upper gallery. At the far end, a woman stood behind reinforced glass. Dark hair, silver at the temples, gray uniform, 15 stolen years written across her face. Vincent walked toward her as though every sound had disappeared. "Elena." Her hand lifted, his bloody palm met hers through the glass. For the first time, Claire saw fear completely break through Vincent's control. Elena smiled through tears. "You took too long." Vincent tore down the manual release. The door opened. Elena stepped into his arms. He held her carefully, as if she might vanish if he breathed too hard. Then she looked past him toward Claire. "You brought Samuel Morgan's daughter." Claire froze. "You knew my father. He designed the doors. But he was not the one giving orders." "Who was?" Elena pulled away from Vincent. "The man who ordered me locked inside." Vincent's voice went quiet. "Our father is dead." "No," a monitor behind Elena activated. An older man appeared on the screen inside the dam's private command room. He had Vincent's eyes. "You found her," Antonio DeLuca said. "Now bring Claire Morgan to me." The transmission ended. Vincent stared at the empty screen. Elena gripped his arm. He did not build this prison only to hide witnesses. Then why? To choose which son would inherit everything after you killed each other. Vincent stared at the dead monitor as if his father might reappear. Antonio DeLuca had been buried beneath an empty coffin 11 years ago. Now Elena tightened her grip on his sleeve. "He has been running this place the entire time," she said. "He let the families believe he was dead while they fought over what he left behind." Claire looked toward the ceiling, where the dam groaned under the storm. "Then he is still inside Redwater." "Yes," Elena said, "and he wants you alive." Vincent turned to Claire. "You are leaving the prison." "No, that was not a request." "And this is not your decision." An alarm sounded from the western corridor. Claire followed it into an abandoned records room. Water dripped through cracked concrete onto cabinets marked with engineering symbols. Inside the first drawer, she found a leather notebook. Samuel Morgan was stamped across the cover. Her father's handwriting filled every page. False load calculations, hidden access tunnels, emergency fractures built deliberately into the dam. Claire read faster, fighting the tremor in her hands. He designed failure points. Vincent stood behind her. For the prison, for everything. The notebook listed dams, courthouses, power stations, and hospitals across 6 states. Every building contained concealed rooms or service tunnels. Everyone had appeared somewhere in Claire's career. She had spent 7 years exposing defects her father created. He knew someone might discover the network, she said, so he built weaknesses that could erase the evidence. A photograph fell from the notebook. Claire at 22, outside her first job site in Phoenix. A red circle had been drawn around her. Below it, her father had written, "If Claire begins finding them, protect her from the consortium. Do not let Antonio reach her." Claire looked at Vincent. "You knew. I knew your father left instructions connected to you. You knew someone was coming after me." "Yes. And you never told me. Telling you would have made you run. You brought me here instead." "I brought you where I could control the threats." Her laugh held no humor. "You still do not hear yourself." Vincent stepped closer. "I hear every word. No. You hear danger and decide it gives you ownership. I never claimed ownership. You tracked my jobs. You paid my debts. You replaced people on licensing boards. You chose where I worked without ever standing in front of me. I made sure you survived. You made sure I moved where you wanted." Pain sharpened his voice. "Every company that tried to blacklist, you received money from the same foundation funding this prison. Each time you exposed one of your father's structures, your name moved higher on a termination list. And you decided I could not handle the truth. I decided fear would make you easier to find." Claire closed the notebook. "Then stop finding me." She walked away. Vincent followed her into the upper gallery. "Claire, do not. You cannot leave the dam alone. Watch me." She climbed the emergency stairs and stepped into the storm. Rain struck her face sideways. The dam stretched across the canyon beneath lightning. Cracks ran through the concrete deck. Far below, black water thundered through the spillway. Claire walked toward the western control tower. Behind her, the security door opened. Vincent came out without guards. His shirt was wet with blood from the tunnel wound. He had left his gun behind. "You should return inside," she said. "So should you. I need to inspect the fracture. You are angry. I can be angry and competent at the same time." "I know. Then why are you following me?" His answer came after a silence. "Because I have watched you walk into failing structures for 7 years. That was surveillance, yes, not devotion." His face hardened. "I did not say it was." Claire reached the expansion joint. The concrete moved beneath her boots. A gunshot cracked across the canyon. Vincent hit her before she heard the second. They fell over the damaged railing. His hand caught a maintenance cable. His other arm locked around Claire's waist. The reservoir roared 30 feet below. A sniper's round struck the railing above them. Vincent swung Claire toward a narrow platform beneath the dam deck. She landed hard, but his injured hand slipped from the cable. Claire seized his wrist. Blood ran between their palms. "Let go," he ordered. "You cannot hold me. Stop deciding what I can do." Another shot struck concrete beside her. Vincent's weight dragged her toward the edge. A rescue line hung 3 feet away. "Take the cable," he said. "I cannot reach it without releasing you. Then release me." Claire stared into his eyes. He was calm, too calm. A man who treated his own death like an acceptable cost. She tightened her grip. "Not today." She pulled until he reached the platform. Vincent collapsed beside her, breathing hard. Then his hand rose toward her cheek. Stopped just before touching, Claire saw the restraint in him, the fear of taking even one thing she had not freely offered. The dam shook. A metal object fell from inside his coat and struck the platform. A remote trigger. Claire picked it up. 4 red lights marked charges around the reservoir wall. She looked at him. "This is not for the bridge." Vincent said nothing. "How much of the dam did you wire?" "Enough. To open the prison, to bury it." Claire felt the truth settle between them. "You never came here to rescue Elena." His eyes remained on hers. "I came to make sure everyone responsible died with her." Claire held the trigger between them. Rain streamed from the damaged platform into the canyon. 4 red lights blinked beneath her thumb. each connected to charges buried inside the reservoir walls. You planned to collapse the western basin. Vincent pushed himself upright. Blood darkened one sleeve. Yes, with the prison occupied. Yes, with Redwater below it. I calculated the flood path. You are not an engineer. No, I hired one. Claire stared at him. That is why I am here. Your father built the only route into the prison. So my inspection assignment was arranged. The truth landed harder than the storm. You did not need me to save the dam. I needed you to open the final chamber. And afterward? Vincent looked toward the reservoir. I intended to destroy the prison while the men who financed it were inside. Along with Alina, his jaw tightened. If she was alive, I would have tried to reach her first. Tried. Revenge was the only promise I knew I could keep. Claire stepped away. Hundreds of people live below this dam. Hundreds lived beside that prison for 15 years and never asked why trucks arrived after midnight. They did not know. Some knew enough. You do not get to execute a town because silence disgusts you. I came here to end the machine that took my sister. No, you came here to become the last man who used it. Something behind his cold expression recoiled. Claire placed the trigger inside her jacket. You will not touch those charges. If Antonio reaches the evidence, then we expose him. You still believe evidence defeats men like my father. I believe drowning innocent people makes you exactly like him. His eyes sharpened. You should be careful what you call me, because everyone else is afraid. No. Vincent stepped close enough that the storm vanished behind him. Because you are the only person whose opinion still has the ability to matter. Before Claire could answer, gunfire erupted from the gallery. Vincent pulled her behind a support. A voice thundered over the dam speakers. DeLuca, I have 27 residents in the turbine hall. Open the eastern prison access, or I begin sending them into the spillway. Marco Salazar. A monitor lit. Men, women, and 2 children knelt beneath armed guards. You have 10 minutes, Marco said. One of Vincent's lieutenants approached. The eastern wing contains the financial archive. If we surrender it, Salazar gets every route we own. Vincent looked at Claire, his empire or the hostages. Open it, she said. The lieutenant protested. Boss, give Salazar the eastern wing. That exposes Nevada, Sonora, and every port account. Then close the accounts. We cannot rebuild from that. I did not ask you to. The locks opened. Claire watched DeLuca men abandon a corridor worth more than the town. Vincent had surrendered part of his organization because she asked. That frightened her more than refusal would have. A guard rushed in. The helicopter is ready, messieurs. Morgan requested evacuation. Vincent seized him by the throat. You moved her without my authorization. Claire caught Vincent's shoulder. Let him go, his grip tightened. Vincent, he released the guard. You do not own my movement, Claire said. I know. Then prove it. He looked toward the helipad. You leave now. Antonio follows you. I would rather face danger I chose than safety you designed. The words wounded him. Vincent removed the trigger from her pocket, then returned it to her palm. Keep it. You are letting me leave. No, his voice roughened. I am allowing you to decide whether I survive your leaving. The helicopter waited above the control building. Claire climbed aboard. Vincent remained on the pad alone, coat whipping in the wind. He did not stop the pilot. As the aircraft lifted, Claire looked down. Vincent stood beside the fractured dam, watching the woman he had arranged an entire town to control fly beyond his reach. Then every cockpit warning light flashed. The navigation screen died. A projectile streaked from the governor's convoy on the ridge and struck the tail assembly. The helicopter spun. Vincent's voice cut through the emergency channel. Bring it back to me. The pilot fought the controls. The aircraft crashed across the helipad, tearing through steel railings before stopping inches from the reservoir. Smoke filled the cabin. Claire's harness jammed. Flames crawled along the fuel line. Through the shattered windshield, Vincent ran toward the wreck while his own men retreated. He ripped open the door. "Claire, I cannot release the belt." Vincent climbed into the burning cabin and cut it free. Collapsing metal sliced across his back. He lifted her into his arms. Gunfire struck the helipad. Vincent carried her through rain and smoke while black subs turned their weapons toward one another. His lieutenants were choosing sides. The dam's public screens activated. Governor Richard Hale appeared beneath the state seal. Citizens of Redwater. The bridge attack and attempted destruction of the dam were engineered by Claire Morgan, acting under organized criminal Vincent DeLuca. Claire's photograph filled every screen. Domestic terrorism suspect. Vincent stopped in the rain. "Federal authority has issued a lethal containment order," Hale announced. Red targeting lights appeared across Claire's body. Vincent turned, shielding her with his own. Then every soldier on the ridge opened fire. Vincent turned his back to the gunfire. Bullets struck the helipad around him as he carried Claire toward the concrete stairwell. His men returned fire, but the governor's armored vehicles continued advancing across the ridge. "Put me down," Claire said. "No, you are bleeding. So are you. I can walk." "I have already watched one aircraft fall with you inside it." His arms tightened. "I will not watch you hit the ground twice." They reached the stairwell. A blast door slammed between them. Governor Hale's security forces flooded the corridor from both sides. Gas filled the narrow passage. Vincent lowered Claire behind him and raised his weapon. A voice sounded through the speakers. "Drop it, DeLuca, or the lower floodgates open." Vincent stopped. Claire saw the calculation in his eyes, the town, the prisoners, her. His gun struck the floor. Soldiers dragged them apart. Vincent fought only when they touched Claire. 6 men forced him to his knees. "Do not take her below," he said. Hale stepped through the smoke, wearing a dry charcoal suit. "You destroyed the only bridge in my state, and now you issue orders. You built the prison," Hale smiled. "I funded continuity," Claire stared at him. "You imprisoned witnesses. We preserved stability. You buried people beneath a reservoir. People who would have started wars." Vincent's voice went cold. "You mean people who could expose you?" Hale looked toward the soldiers holding him. "Take DeLuca to the Eastern Turbine Hall. Let him watch his organization collapse." Claire was pulled toward the lower control rooms. Vincent's gaze stayed on her until the blast door closed. Inside the interrogation chamber, Hale placed a file on the table. Photographs showed Claire beside Vincent at the dam, inside the prison tunnel, and near the ruined helicopter. "You have become very useful to him," Hale said. "I am useful to the town. You are useful to whichever powerful man arranges your next decision." Claire's expression hardened. Hale opened the file. Her father stood beside Antonio DeLuca in an old construction photograph. "My father was threatened, at first." Hale slid forward a second image. Samuel Morgan shaking hands with government officials beside the completed prison entrance. He designed the original chambers under pressure. Then he realized what access to hidden infrastructure could buy him. Claire looked away. "He became one of you. He became practical." A hidden earpiece beneath Claire's hair clicked. Elena's whisper entered. "Do not react. I am inside the medical wing." Claire kept her face still. Elena continued. 15 years ago, I witnessed Hale signing an alliance between governors, federal contractors, and 3 mafia families. My father ordered me confined because I refused to accept the marriage that would seal it." Claire looked at Hale. "Why keep Elena alive? Her blood authorized the DeLuca systems, and mine opens my father's." Hale smiled. "Together, you are the last 2 keys." He placed a confession before her. It named Vincent as the sole architect of the prison, the bridge attack, and the planned destruction of Redwater. "Sign this and you receive immunity. And Vincent, he dies resisting arrest." The prisoners, relocated, buried. Hale did not answer. Claire picked up the pen. Through the wall, she heard a faint metallic impact. Vincent, he had been placed close enough to listen. You intended to destroy the dam, Claire said loudly. Silence followed from the other side. Hale leaned forward. So did he. Claire looked at the confession. Vincent had lied, manipulated her, tracked her, used her father's past to bring her here. But he had surrendered territory to save hostages, entered a burning helicopter for her. Chosen prisoners over evidence, she set down the pen. I will testify to what Vincent actually did. Hale's smile disappeared. But I will not replace your crimes with his. Behind the wall, the metallic sound stopped. Claire did not know whether Vincent had heard the refusal. Soldiers entered and removed her. In the adjacent corridor, Vincent stood restrained between guards, their eyes met. Hale lifted the unsigned confession where Vincent could see it. She was considering the offer. Vincent looked at Claire. She saw the moment he believed it, not completely, but enough. You wanted honesty, he said. I was trying to. The guards pulled him away. Vincent. He did not turn. Hale brought Claire into the lower control chamber beneath the reservoir. Reinforced glass formed one wall. Beyond it lay the submerged prison, black and silent. Explosive charges were attached to the support columns. You planted those, Claire said. DeLuca will receive the blame. You intend to destroy the prison and the town. I intend to destroy uncertainty. The steel door sealed behind her. Claire rushed to the controls. Every floodgate indicator changed from green to red. Hale's face appeared on the monitor. Your father designed this chamber to survive long enough for its operator to complete the purge. Water burst through the lower vents. Claire reached for the override. The controls rejected her code. Above the dam, the private power network activated. Vincent stood inside the turbine hall before a map of his empire: casinos, ports, warehouses, safe houses. Every operation depended on the grid beneath Redwater. His lieutenant placed a hand on the master switch. If we divert this power to the prison pumps, we lose everything. A security screen flickered. Claire appeared behind underwater glass. Water had reached her waist. Vincent stepped toward the image. She pressed one hand against the window. On the other side of the submerged corridor, Vincent placed his palm against the glass. Claire could not hear him, but she understood the shape of the words on his mouth. I am coming, his lieutenant said. Boss, once we cut this grid, every enemy we have will know where to strike. Vincent looked at Claire as the water climbed around her chest. Then he reached for the switch. Behind him, every light representing the DeLuca Empire waited to go dark. Vincent pulled the master switch. Across 3 states, the DeLuca Empire went dark. Casinos lost power. Surveillance feeds vanished. Safe houses became visible to waiting enemies. The diverted current surged into the prison pumps. Claire's chamber lights flickered. The water stopped rising at her shoulders. Vincent removed his watch, gun, and coat. His lieutenant stared at him. The lower corridors are submerged. Open the dive locker. You will not come back. Vincent looked at Claire through the glass. That stopped being the important outcome. He entered the water. Cold closed over him. Red lamps formed a path through the prison. Elena's voice entered his earpiece. Take the medical corridor. Where are you? Freeing the west cells. Get out. You came for me after 15 years. Do not waste the reunion by becoming our father. Gunfire vibrated through the water. Vincent reached Claire's control chamber. She stood behind reinforced glass with one hand against the emergency panel. He placed his palm opposite hers. Then Claire pointed toward a release wheel beneath the corridor. Vincent turned it. A fallen support beam held the door closed. He lifted until pain tore through his wounded shoulder. Claire struck the internal release. The door opened halfway. Water exploded into the chamber. Vincent forced himself through and caught Claire before the current dragged her away. Her arms locked around his neck. You came alone. I was told that would impress you. This is not the moment for arrogance. It may be my final opportunity. I did not accept Hale's offer. I know. You believed him. For 9 seconds. That was 8 too many. His hand rose toward her face. This time he touched her. His thumb crossed her cheek. A detonation shook the prison. Claire pulled him toward the console. Hale opened the gates. The western foundation will separate unless we collapse the prison inward. What do you need? Thermal charges inside the evidence archive. That destroys every record and saves the town. Vincent looked toward the archive. 15 years of names, proof capable of destroying the men who had taken Elena. Claire saw the hesitation. Vincent, revenge was the only thing I had before you. And now it is trying to take you from me. They moved through the flooded corridor. Elena waited beside the final cells with 3 prisoners. Vincent handed Claire an emergency mask. Take Elena to the surface. Claire shook her head. The charges require 2 manual releases. Teach me. There is no time. Claire, you destroyed your empire to give me a choice. Do not take it away now. Elena sighed. After we survive, they entered the archive. Marco Salazar stood beside the ledgers, with Governor Hale at gunpoint. You shut down your empire for an engineer. I have made worse investments. These records give me every judge, senator, and family that matters. They give you a larger prison. They give me your throne. I no longer want it. Vincent fired into the overhead support. Steel and water crashed between Marco and the ledgers. Claire ran to the thermal controls. Hale broke free and reached for the broadcast console. Elena struck his arm away, activating the microphone. You cannot expose this facility. The federal consortium authorized every detention. Antonio DeLuca supplied the prisoners. Samuel Morgan designed the concealment. I protected the agreement. Elena locked the channel open. The entire town heard him. Marco fired. Vincent stepped in front of Claire. The bullet struck beneath his ribs. He remained standing. His return shot sent Marco backward into the flooding archive. Claire caught Vincent. No, finish the sequence. You cannot stand. I only need to stand longer than the dam. They reached opposite release wheels. Claire counted the fracture pulses. On 3, blood spread through Vincent's shirt. 1, the prison tilted. 2, a gate collapsed between them and the exit. 3, they turned the wheels. Thermal alarms screamed. A steel beam pinned Vincent's leg. Go, he said. Claire tried to lift it. The charges ignite in 40 seconds. I am not leaving you. Elena needs you. So do you. Vincent looked at her as if no one had ever spoken those words without fear or obligation. Revenge stopped mattering when I saw the water reach your throat. Then prove it by surviving. Elena returned with the prisoners. Together they raised the beam, and Vincent pulled free. They reached the submerged passage as the archive ignited. The blast drove black water through the corridor. Vincent held the final gate while Claire pushed Elena and the prisoners through. Metal folded around his shoulder. Vincent, go! Claire crossed the threshold, then turned back. She swam against the current, wrapped both arms around him and tore him free as the gate collapsed. The prison disappeared behind fire and water. Claire dragged Vincent upward through darkness. His body went still. At the turbine platform, she pressed both hands to his chest. Vincent, no response. She breathed for him once. Twice, the dam shook. Vincent coughed water and opened his eyes. Claire bent over him, trembling. He touched her wrist. You came back. You sound surprised. I am trying to enjoy it. A crack like thunder split the canyon. Across the control screens, the western spillway separated from the dam. Claire looked below. The prison was sealed. The prisoners were free, but millions of tons of water were pushing against a structure with less than 20 minutes left. The dam had 17 minutes left. Claire stood over the western control map, while alarms screamed through the turbine hall. The spillway is separating along my father's fracture line, she said. If it breaks toward town, Redwater disappears. Vincent leaned against the console, one hand pressed beneath his ribs. What stops it? Nothing built into the dam. Elena brought the prisoners onto the upper platform. while Hale's confession repeated across every emergency frequency. Vincent looked toward the reservoir. The charges, the explosives he had planted for revenge, were still buried along the western wall. If we detonate them in sequence, we might divert the collapse into the abandoned mining canyon, Claire said. Might? The blast could take the dam, or save the town. Vincent reached for the trigger. Claire stopped him. The sequence must follow the pressure release. One mistake and the reservoir comes through this room. Then tell me when. His lieutenant appeared on a monitor. Boss, rival crews took Nevada. Federal teams entered the ports. Every account is exposed. Vincent watched Claire. Evacuate the last families. There will be nothing left. There are 4,000 people left. The screen went silent. Claire opened the floodgates in staggered intervals. First charge. Vincent pressed the switch. A blast tore through the canyon. Second. Another explosion split the old mining ridge. Water shifted west. Not yet, Claire said. The control room windows fractured. Vincent moved in front of her as glass fell across his back. Claire, wait. A support column failed. Now, Vincent detonated the last charge. Western spillway collapsed. For one terrible moment, the reservoir rose above the broken wall. Then the water turned. It thundered into the abandoned canyon, carrying the hidden tunnels, DeLuca power lines, and the last foundations of the prison with it. The dam remained standing. Redwater did not disappear. Radios came alive. The school shelter is secure. Courthouse accounted for. Prisoners reached the ridge. Claire closed her eyes. Vincent's hand remained behind her neck. You can let go, she whispered. I know, he did not. By sunrise, federal helicopters filled the canyon. Hale was arrested inside a drainage tunnel. His confession named politicians, contractors, and criminal families across 3 states. Samuel Morgan's journals were recovered. Claire read the first report beside the medical tent, where Vincent refused treatment until every prisoner had been counted. Her father had designed the prison under threat, then accepted money and influence to expand the system. The truth erased the gentler version of him she had kept alive. Vincent found her alone. You do not have to defend him. I spent years repairing his work. You repaired what he damaged. She looked at Vincent. You planned to destroy this town. Yes. You manipulated my career. Yes. You brought me here for my father's codes. Yes. He never reached for innocence he had not earned. And then you destroyed everything to save people you came here willing to sacrifice. I destroyed it for you. That is not better. No, he looked toward the prisoners. But you made me see them. Federal agents approached. Elena stepped between them and her brother. Vincent entered the prison to rescue hostages. Every survivor will confirm it. Vincent looked at her. Tell them everything. I will. Elena touched his face. Just not the lie our father wanted, that you could never choose anyone over power. She entered witness protection that afternoon. Vincent's organization collapsed before sunset. His properties were seized, his allies scattered, and rival families placed a price on his head. That night, Claire found him at the ruins of the suspension bridge. Broken cables hung above the river. Vincent stood where the roadway ended, wearing a borrowed shirt beneath his blood-stained coat. You are leaving, she said. I have enemies coming from every direction. So you decided for me again, he turned. I have nothing left to offer you. You keep confusing power with value. My protection is gone. I never asked for it. My name will make your life dangerous. It already did. He looked toward the water. I do not know how to become the man you believe survived that prison. Build him. And if I fail, then I walk away. The answer hurt him, but it proved she was staying by choice. He reached toward her hand, then stopped. Claire closed the distance herself. Their first kiss was not born from collapsing walls or fear of death. It was slow, uncertain, earned beneath the ruins of the bridge he had destroyed. 6 months later, the first steel section of Redwater's new public bridge stretched across the canyon. Claire led the reconstruction. Vincent worked under his own name, directing what remained of his fortune into compensation funds for the prisoners' families. He still watched every door. At sunset, Claire found him beneath the completed span, his hands marked with concrete dust. "Do you regret saving me?" he asked. She studied the man who had once known only how to destroy what threatened him. Above them, the first lights came alive across the bridge. Claire placed her hand in his. "Ask me after you build something that doesn't imprison anyone." Vincent looked up at the structure joining both sides of the canyon. Then he closed his fingers around hers. Deep beneath the quiet reservoir, the prison remained sealed in darkness. But above it, for the first time, Vincent DeLuca had helped create a way out.